Welcome back to the Garden of Glass podcast presented by the Hope Farm. I'm your host, Bentley Evans, and today we have a special guest, our neighbor across the street, Brian Kane. He is one of the owners of the Fairhope Brewing Company, and he's going to join me, and we're going to talk about all things beer. So I appreciate you being here, man.
Hey, I'm looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, so I guess, that's kind of how we started off. Just give us kind of the background story of you and kind of how you got to, Fairhope Brewing.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty fun little story. I went to Alabama Law School, which is where I met my business partner, Jim. And after law school, my wife, not at the time, but my girlfriend then, wife now, Michelle, we decided to adventure a little, and we moved to Alaska.
Oh, wow.
And lived in Juneau, Alaska for about 6 years, supposed to be about 2 years, lasted a little longer.
Yeah.
Both had attorney jobs up there, but we really got into the beer culture up there. It was real heavy in craft beer, Pacific Northwest. Alaska Brewing Company, which is one of the larger craft breweries in the country these days, is based out of Juneau.
Okay.
So we really got very familiar with it. We started going to breweries when we'd go on road trips and vacations, and not any dreams of opening one. We just really, got into that and enjoyed it. We always found that the brewery would have the kind of the insider spots to go when you were visiting somewhere new.
Sure.
Not the tour guide stuff, but
right.
like the back door entrance to the waterfall kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we love going to the breweries and hanging out and meeting folks and trying the different beers and everything. And then fast forward a little bit, we moved back down this way when we had our daughter, and kind of were at a crossroads of continuing law, what we were going to do. And Michelle actually suggested the idea. We give her credit every single one of these times.
Yeah.
In case she ever listens.
Sure.
But we were actually at a tailgate at the law school in Alabama for a football game, and had some Good People beer.
Yeah.
And
Great
we're
beer.
like, whoa, man, Alabama has craft beer now.
Yeah.
Which was non-existent when I left in 2005 pretty much. And we kind of started to research a little bit what was going on in Alabama. And the laws had just kind of opened up to allow for tap rooms. I think it was 2012 or 11 is right when that started. And upon finding that out, she kind of suggested we look into that.
Yeah.
And I haven't grown up in Mobile, so we wanted to come back down this way. And so we did a little research, found there were, at the time, I think maybe 3 or 4 breweries when we started our process.
Yeah.
I looked into it because a lot of times you feel like there's a legal reason why it hadn't started down there or something. We couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And we kind of decided to pull the trigger and try it out. And she ended up getting a job with Hargrove Engineers down here as their in-house counsel. So she does the real work, and I do the beer drinking. So it's a really nice setup. I'm not complaining about how it worked out. But
winner.
She's a better lawyer than me, though. So they're in better hands with her than me there.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, we kind of, once we saw that there seemed to be an open door there, we knew a lot about beer just from having visited all these places.
Yeah.
I thought we had a pretty good business mind. We're both pretty creative people. And so we kind of took the leap at that point to move forward with it.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce the episode's cocktail. So this episode's cocktail is the Razor Burn. It is 2 dashes of mango pineapple habanero tincture, 0.5 ounces of lime juice, 0.75 ounces of mango shrub, 0.5 ounces of Ancho Reyes, and 1 ounce of Luna Resposado. You shake it, strain it into a coupe, and top it with Razor's Edge Sour, which is a lavender lemon sour that y'all have on tap over there. And it is delicious.
That's a good one.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
We're also drinking Lost in Mountain Brook, which is a West Coast IPA. So we're double dipping here. Gonna have a good time.
I don't know if it's beer before liquor or which way you're supposed to go. But
yeah, it doesn't matter at this point. We're good. We're gonna drink them both.
All right.
Deal with the consequences later. All right. So let's jump into kind of the inception story. Obviously, you have a partner there, Jim Foley. Kind of how did you said y'all linked up at law school? Is that right?
Right. So we got to be friends in law school. We were in the first sections together.
Okay.
I think we kind of bonded over fantasy football or something like that. So we kind of got together. We're both sports enthusiasts, so we ended up getting to be friends. We were roommates our third year of law school.
Okay.
And then he went and worked for a judge in Georgia for a couple of years. and I did the thing in Alaska.
Yeah.
And then when we came back down, he had kind of his time to run out doing that, and he was kind of looking for the next step.
Yeah.
And I tried convincing him over and over again to jump in with me, and he was super hesitant to do it. And we ended up going up to Atlanta, which is the area he was in, for the ACC basketball tournament in, I guess, the spring of 2012.
Okay.
And had some beers. We had a home brewer who was going to be our first brewer. A guy named Dan Murphy made excellent beer. Fairhope 51 was one of his originals that I brought with me.
Nice.
And brought him up there and ended up meeting up with Jim, and he tried him out and called me like the next day, says, I'm in.
Nice.
So at that point, and it was helpful because, you know, it's a lot easier to be bouncing off ideas off somebody who's, you know, in this thing with you.
Right.
We initially started out looking at the beach. That was kind of where we thought we wanted to be, was down in the Orange Beach or Gulf Shores area. Fortunately for us, that did not work out.
Right.
We kind of had a bad day on the searching for a spot front, decided we would expand our search to Fairhope.
Okay.
Literally, first building we drove up to is the one across the street here that we were in.
Really?
And the leasing agent, Randy Niemeyer, lived like right down the street. He came and let us in the building in like 2 minutes. And then we drove away going, we're not going to look at another place. That's
awesome.
That's the spot that we want to be in.
Yeah.
And just had the look of the brick facade, had the look we wanted,
yeah,
space we needed. And it was, so that was exciting. You don't expect, sometimes we had to redo our business plan, not completely, but make some modifications to what we were trying to do. We had a little more year-round crowd, less of the tourist, hardcore run. So, and looking back, it's one of those things that hugely worked out in our favor. Somebody was looking over our shoulder, helping us out there.
Absolutely. I mean, iconic Fairhope brand at this point. How long have y'all been open?
We opened in January of 2013.
Okay.
So our 10th year anniversary will be this January.
It's going to be a fun party.
Yeah, I think so.
So as far as learning the process of brewing, how involved are y'all in that process? Obviously you have a guy that heads it up, but as far as kind of the learning process there of how it's done, obviously you had to do a little bit of that on your own, being a lawyer and not didn't go to school or for a brewing program or anything like that. So how'd that process happen?
Well, I've actually I've brewed about 2 batches of beer in my career by myself.
Okay.
I wouldn't say by myself, with friends.
Yeah.
Which is why we went out looking. We got the brewer, Dan, that started things out for us. And we understood enough of the process. I don't think Jim or I ever quite reached a point where we're going to create our own recipes or anything of that sort. But you learn why something didn't turn out well, what things need to be changed to make something better. So we did learn a lot of the ins and outs, but as far as the actual science, technical stuff, we know enough, but we didn't ever want to get to know enough to be dangerous. Right. So we're big proponents of letting the people do what they do. I've got my things I'm good at. Jim's got things he's good at. We're like, the brewer's got a thing he's good at.
Right.
We just seen a lot of places that kind of start to fade when the guy in charge thinks he needs to have his hand in everything.
Yep. You got to exploit everybody's, strong suits.
Right. And so we're like, if I don't know something about it, I'm not going to argue with the guy that does. So
you got to put a lot of trust in those people.
Yeah. You got to use your skills to pick the right person.
Right.
And then from there, you let them do what they do.
So in the hiring process, how many did y'all start out with? How many employees?
It was me, Jim, and Dan for about probably 9 months or so.
Okay.
Now we had, Michelle helped out bartending. Jim's wife helped out, Cindy. Dan's wife helped out. We had people who were support staff, so to speak, but not necessarily employees by any means.
Right.
And Jim and I were, we were bartending all 6 nights a week pretty much between the two of us, and washing the kegs, filling the kegs, all the things that we were able to do as part of that process. We were the ones doing all those things.
Yeah, all the dirty work.
And now we're at, I think we got about 9 or 10 full-time employees. We got 3 or 4 bartenders, and it's grown a lot. And we've got guys that know how to run equipment that I have no clue how it works.
Right, it's very specialized. Yeah. So obviously in the beginning, the tap room was kind of the main focus, I guess. Was that the main line of business, and then you got into the distribution side of things?
We did. We opened when we started out. We opened 3 days a week because we had a small amount of beer.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing it slowly because we didn't want to. If we weren't good at it, we didn't want to have like 4 batches that were terrible.
Right.
So we did one, and then the next one, and then the next one. So we were only open Thursday through Saturday, just for like 4 hours, just because we wanted to get everybody out there. We needed some income.
Yeah.
but we knew we couldn't sustain some sort of 6-day-a-week thing. So once we started to get our beer stock up a little bit, we did the tap room thing pretty comfortably. And I want to say, I think it was the beginning and middle of March of 13 is when we distributed to a few places around Fairhope.
Okay.
Ravenite Pizza is the only one I think that's actually still open that picked our beer up the very first week.
That's awesome.
McSherry's picked our beer up. They picked up Fairhope 51 the first time it was available.
Okay.
Which wasn't one of our first beers available.
Yeah.
And I think they've had it on tap at McSherry's for 8+ years now, which is pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
But yeah, Ravenite's had us on tap every week since we first distributed, which is fantastic. The other places I'm sure would have, but they've kind of come and gone here and there. Right. But yeah, it was funny. We started out and we got 5 accounts our first week, and we were all like, we're not going to make it. Like, there's only 5 people that want to buy our beer. Like, what in the world is going on here?
Right.
Then as you get into the game, realize that they got to wait on kegs to blow, and they got there's a whole lot of things to that we didn't comprehend. We used to get our feelings hurt every time somebody didn't want our beer, and you work through that. Every bad review you got, in month 1, I'm sure you just fretted over and wanted to email them and straighten it out.
Yeah, I gotta stop having those come to my email address because I get to read them and then it's a spiral. But
you're searching for like Todd S at a Spanish Fort.
Like, what's this guy on Facebook? What's he look like?
Oh, look, he wrote bad about this place too.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did a lot of that. We don't do that anymore. Thank goodness. But so we distributed in a small amount. Again, one of the best pieces of advice I got early on, and I think it actually was from one of the guys at Good People, was don't run out of beer.
Yeah.
There's the good problem to have is not running out of beer. There are some out there, but that's not one of them.
Yeah.
And so we moved very slowly in distribution, making sure that we could fulfill an account because, you spend a week convincing somebody to put you on tap. Mm-hmm. It flies. They go to reorder it and you're out. It's going to be hard. It's even harder to get it back on again.
Yep.
And so we move real slow in that. And again, that's been one of our calling cards for quite a while now is consistency and availability. Like we tell you we're going to have a beer, we're going to have it.
Right.
And barring, mechanical issues or whatever things, there are things that have made it hard sometimes. Yeah. But by and large, we've, if somebody orders a beer, we don't run out on them.
That's awesome. What was the first beer that y'all brewed?
Everyday Ale was the very first beer.
That's a good one.
Everyday Ale, and then we did one called Section Street Wheat, which was a true German Hefeweizen.
Okay.
And it was the Blue Moon shock top crowd. Yeah. It was a little too traditional and just didn't.
Gotcha.
I say it didn't move. It might not have been good. That was a long time ago. I don't know how that one. But every day is basically some very we tweaked the recipe here and there, but it's very similar to what we first put. At least recipe wise, what we first put out.
There was a taste test that happened, and the Golden Ale, the cheap sunglasses, beat it, huh? In the blind taste test.
It did. We were looking for something, and it's a little more cost effective as well for us. Okay. So for packaging purposes, that worked out a little bit better with what the ingredients we were getting in the other beers and everything else.
Gotcha.
And we still bring back Everyday Ale.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, a few months a year here and there.
Every day.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the shirt. I drink every day. It's genius.
Yes.
So as far as the strategic plan here, obviously, y'all have the Pelican.
Right.
Where did that originate from? Was that from part of the original idea, the mascot for Fairhope Brewing, or did that kind of evolve? We
when we were coming up with our logo, I would say it was probably the biggest throwdown fight we had amongst our original group of people.
Yeah.
We had another guy named Gabe Harris who's out of Birmingham. He was the head of Free the Hops a little while back. He's a good friend of mine. Okay. And I got in touch with him kind of early on, asking some questions about the Alabama beer scene.
Yeah.
At the end of our conversation, he's like, "Well, I'd love to be a part of this, operation if you're looking for people."
Yeah.
Obviously, he was a great guy to have on because he had a ton of knowledge. He's still a part of what we're doing here.
Okay.
And so he was one of those people that was helping out early on with this logo thing. And we ended up getting Hummingbird Ideas out of Mobile.
Okay.
And they had a sheet of 5 pages of logos because they came up with the concept of the F with the negative space being something.
Right.
And because we didn't want the clock, we didn't, we wanted something new and fresh. We're like, the clock's cool, but, clock's on all the logos. So,
right.
Sunset, same thing. We kind of like the idea, but then again, it was something you see a lot. We wanted to be something different. And so we had all these various logos. I mean, there's a million of them. I think we got the pages somewhere. And we couldn't agree on anything. Yeah. And then on one of the bottom corners, I saw the Pelican. I guess there's so many of them. I was like, well, screenshot it and sent it to everybody. I was like, I think this is it. And I'm like, yeah, that's the Pelican. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And so we ended up going with that logo, which obviously we still have on pretty much everything that we have out there.
Yeah.
And then, the Pelican, and also Gulf Coast wise, we haven't distributed to Louisiana yet, but the day we do, like, obviously that resonates right away.
Right.
There. So that was our, pre-packaging logo.
Yeah.
Then when it came time to actually put beer in bottles and then cans, we wanted to not obviously use the same Pelican. We want to keep the same concept together.
Yep.
And everything we looked at, I don't know if you ever try to look up Pelicans. They either look super scary or they look crazy cartoonish.
Yeah, for sure.
And like we were like, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, we can't find anything out there. And ended up getting in touch with Matt Whitfield, who did all of our stuff. Okay. He used to work for Coors. He's done a lot in the marketing world in general around this area. And he put together the Pelican concept to us because we wanted a mascot, like I said, a mascot as we do that's interchangeable.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at our beer, it's our beer.
Right.
We found a lot of breweries. Each can had its own very individual design. It's like, how do you know if that's a brewery? Because a lot of people go, well, I love their IPA, so I'm going to try their amber. I'm like, and we're like, we want people to know across the board that these are our beers.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And we looked at New Belgium did a great job of that. They frame all their artwork on their packaging the same way. So it's a different, like, whatever you want to call it, whether it's the bicycle or the Ranger guy or whatever.
Yep.
But if you look at all the boxes, they all pretty much look the same, different color patterns.
Gotcha.
And it's recognizable. We know what you're getting. So anyway, that was important to us. And then he came to us with that Pelican, and we were like, this guy, like, this Pelican, like, looks like he knows something that you don't know. He's not scary. He doesn't look like he should be in a kid's cartoon. This is exactly what we're looking for. And so, from there, then when it was just having fun, like
putting the sunglasses on.
What do we think? This Causeway guy, he's going to be a fisherman, and the Amber guy is going to look like a professor, or whatever. And so from there, it was just kind of fun to, part of coming up with beer names too is like, well, what is this Pelican? Like, we did cheap sunglasses. One of the last ones we really used that Pelican for was we were discussing the names. We're like, well, how does the Pelican look under this name? And a lot of them we had to discard because we just couldn't figure it out.
Right.
Then when cheap sunglasses came about, we're like, fanny pack and the sunglasses and everything, it'll be good.
So how is the creative process of naming those beers? Because I think y'all do a fantastic job at that, and I think everybody could agree with that y'all have such clever names. What's that creative process like? I mean, obviously it's probably a team effort, but what does that look like? Yeah,
it's the exciting part is watching Jim and me argue over who actually thought of a name. We started documenting a little better because we have these arguments as trying to take credit because a lot of times it is, somebody will throw out one that's just a little bit off, and then somebody else cleans it up, and you're like, oh,
claims the whole thing.
Right, that was it. You're like, no, but I started that conversation. So a lot of it just kind of depends on. Some of them are the based on what the beer is of how we want to do it, or obviously I drink therefore I amber. We wanted the name in there, and
sure.
Fairhope 51 is based on our brewers. It was his 51st recipe out of his little brew book. That's where we came up with that one.
That's cool.
And then I don't even remember. I think Take the Causeway IPA. Just one day I just spurted that out in the summer. We were complaining about traffic or something, and
only rookies don't take the Causeway.
Exactly, and then that kind of and it just flew. Came out well.
Yeah.
And then again, I had we did an event called Firkenfest over in Mobile, and we made these shirts that said "Vote for Fairhope or the devil will get you," and because of obviously the sign in Montgomery, and then we come back one day, I'm like, that's the same amount of syllables as Take the Causeway, and so we put that shirt, and I swear to God, every time we post anything about that on social media, it just like blows up, like people just love that that saying, and
it's hilarious.
Either you get it or you don't. If you get it, it's it hits.
Right.
But naming the beers is definitely one of the most fun. I mean, I'm sure y'all do with your cocktails.
Oh yeah.
Obviously you've got some that already have names that you just create, but then there's some that what the Razor Burn.
Yeah, the Razor Burn.
One, like that's a
just playing off of different ingredients or whatever. But you got the classic ones as well that you kind of go with the name. But then we'd like to play on a bunch of classics too, so they have fun down there with it. I can't take any credit for naming any cocktails. I just like to drink them. But so do y'all drink the beer prior to naming the beer, or do you? It
kind of depends. Yeah. If it is if a certain style that we come up with, we'll play off that style a little bit.
Right.
I'll give you a good example of one. This is sometimes how it occurs. We have one called Long Handshake that's an Imperial Porter. And there was a day when Darius was bartending on a Friday, and he had this older gentleman come up to him to tell him how much he enjoyed in bartending. And there's about 4 of us kind of just standing on the end of the bar at the end of the day chatting. Yeah. And the guy starts shaking Darius' hand while he's telling him how much he enjoyed it. Well, this conversation goes on for so long that they're basically just holding hands by the end of this conversation. And we're all just laughing. Like, and he's keeping a straight face and just listening to this guy. Yeah. And then when it's over, we're like, man, that was a long handshake. Yeah, so I was like, we didn't write that one down. That's awesome. So, like, we didn't have the beer, but it's just, we have a little folder, there it goes in our notes, right. Long handshake. And then when we tasted that one, we were like, this is the one finally that matches long handshake.
That's so fun, man.
So we have ones that pop up every now and then, and we'll write them down, and we're like, when we'll know when the beer comes along that we want for this one. Other ones, it's like, here's the style. Let's start throwing things around till something hits that we that we really like.
That's fun, man. I love that. I love that whole process. So as far as y'all's marketing plan, getting out, obviously you started kind of in Fairhope distributing, kind of trying to get your beer in various places. What was the game plan from there as far as your expansion? Where was the kind of, Birmingham, where were the areas that y'all kind of sought out? And then kind of how did y'all go about getting your beers in those places?
Well, the first area was Birmingham, actually. It probably should have been Pensacola, but getting beer across state lines is a little, you got a little more federal paperwork to do than you do just within your own state. So Birmingham was easiest for us out of the gate. Mm-hmm. But actually, Mobile was a couple of months before we went into Mobile. So once we got comfortable in Mobile, we sent a little bit of beer. I don't think we actually started a full truck to Birmingham until probably about a year in. Okay. Just because we didn't want to run any risk of running out or anything like that. Run yourself thin. Yeah. So we, so Birmingham, and also that's where I mentioned Gabe. He was already up there. He had knew a lot of people. So we had a pretty decent following up there before. We'd been up to some beer festivals up there. Gotcha. And we wanted to expand there. And then the second place I went, I'm pretty sure, was the Pensacola area after that. We've held on well there. Again, we don't want to get too far out. We'd rather really saturate each place that we're in. So even fast forward 9 years, Baldwin County is still our number one focus. Gotcha. We always feel like there's growth in your own area. Mm-hmm. We always said if we relied on the beer we were going to sell in Arkansas, then we probably weren't going to make it. So, we knew that only more breweries were going to open, that only more, people are going to support your local guy. So we wanted, obviously we pushed that, support us over outside folks or whatever. Yeah. So, we do well in the rest of the state. We do well in Mississippi. We do well in the Florida area. But again, our focus is Baldwin County first, Mobile County second. Those are the ones that we really, even now, just work really hard to make sure we're doing everything we can.
I like that. I think people love to support local, so that's probably, an easier sell, I would say, maybe than somewhere in another state.
Yeah, and then, again, Pensacola is only, 30 minutes away, but 45 minutes, whatever, but Florida people love Florida breweries. We have found that. There's a lot of, to Grayton or Pensacola Bay, there's a lot of loyalty there. And from the accounts too. So, it takes some effort to get your foot in the door over there. Right. And so we get a lot of people come over from Pensacola to drink at our tap room, but a lot more success, and even in Mobile now, we got a lot of breweries in Mobile. So there's, the locals even getting more local. Right. You've got Brader River and Old Majestic, and now Oyster City's over there. Yeah. Iron Hand. You got some folks there that people are very loyal to in Mobile. Yep. That might pick up our beer, but not as frequently as they did before those guys were around. So. Right, and y'all done a collaboration with them, the Friends in Low Places. Yeah, we did. We kind of wanted to highlight one of the cooler things about our industry is that while we are obviously in competition to some extent, we're also not. We're friends.
You're brewing beer. We
share ideas. Yeah, we share ingredients. We share ideas. Yeah. We get together to talk about things that aren't going the way we want or things we'd like to see changed. Yeah. And so it's, we talk somewhat regularly with those guys anyway. So it made sense to put something together to kind of let everybody know that we do all, we do actually get along.
There's some collaboration here.
Yeah. We're friends with each other, and, we hope each other's breweries are successful as can be,
Yeah. That's kind of how our mentality is too. If there's another wine bar or another, nice restaurant, it amplifies the place you live in and makes it all better. So, friendly competition is a good thing.
Yeah. It used to be if you want to come down on a beer tour down here, you came to Fairhope or you got nowhere. Now, right, you got 5 or 6 breweries down here. It makes the whole area a little more attractive. Exactly. So it's we got no problem with that.
So as far as your obviously y'all had a strategic plan starting this thing out. How did the overall marketing, I'm trying to search for the word here, but just the overall strategic plan, how's that shifted from the day you opened the doors to right now? Has there been any significant changes that were not part of the original plan?
I don't know that there's anything crazy significant. I think we have grown in terms of like, we used to have a chalkboard we wrote all our beers down on. Mm-hmm. Now we have an actual, board, TV menu type, a lot of things like that. Like I think we have, I like to think of it, I always joke that so we have our Golden Tee machine over there, which I know you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah.
I was playing Golden Tee back in 1999.
Yeah.
And from each year, you don't ever feel like it changed that much. You're like, oh, it's got a little bit better. Yeah. And then you go now and you play like a machine from 2003 and you're like, oh my God, how did I ever, right. This thing is crazy. Like, this is terrible. What happened?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I feel like we've made small changes, whereas being a part of it, you don't notice it as much. But if you came to see us in 2014, you come back in 2020, you'd be like, right. Wow, you guys have, you've done this and you've done that, and, again, we've gone from, we started with, so 2 or 3, 4 beers on tap. Now we've got 14 in a cider. Yeah. So we try to watch. I think we less watch what other breweries are doing now. I think early on we were real cognizant of the beer world in general.
Right.
I think now we focus a little more inward on what we're doing, what we want to do, what our customers are interested in having.
Yeah.
And try and make sure we keep the beers that we want out there. And I think we've also just gotten, as we've grown, we've gotten a lot more organized, formal.
Yep.
From writing on notepads to Google spreadsheets to now an actual brew system that tracks inventory.
Right.
So I think we've gotten more professional. I guess that'd be the word. Like we've tried to not lose our down home small town feel, which I don't think we have. But we've also on the backside tried to make everything way more organized. Where we are running it like a place that's brewing 4,000 or 5,000 barrels of beer, not 500 barrels of beer. So that's
a ton.
And it's again, that's a lot of bringing on people that you trust to do a job and not micromanaging, not looking over their shoulder all the time. And, there are definitely some jobs Jim and I were more than happy to give up and let other people take on.
I'm sure. Yeah. As more employees come out, the accountability side of things, I would imagine, you had to get off the, writing on a piece of paper and put it where everybody could see it.
Right.
But, so as far as, at what point did y'all, expand your manufacturing? So, obviously, y'all had the one brew or tap room area, and then you had y'all can see through the windows. If you've never been there, you can see behind the bar. There's the tanks and everything, and then y'all acquired the building next to you,
right,
and expanded your production. At what point did y'all do that, and kind of what was that process like?
Yeah, we didn't. Our initial business plan didn't necessarily call for us to get into package quite as soon as we did. But we started to see people, the area was growing, not necessarily the state, I guess, more was growing with breweries more so than the area. Mm-hmm. And, we were in, I want to say, probably middle of 14, we kind of started looking around that we needed to probably get in package because what we didn't want was to be the second area brewery in package because we wanted the prime spot while we could get it.
Yep.
And the guy that owned the print shop there, he was kind of looking to downsize because the print industry was, the machines were, a tenth of the size they used to be. So he had a lot of dead space in his building. Yeah. And so he had been talking to us for a while about taking that spot over when he wanted to move to a smaller location. So we kind of started that talk with him. At the time, the beer laws allowed you had to have, to sell beer in your tap room, you had to either make it there or in an adjacent facility. Okay. So if we had gone to say County Road 32 and put up a building, the beer we made there could not have been sold at our tap room.
Gotcha.
That has since changed, but that's how it was at the time. And so that was a huge spot for us because those two buildings were counted under the same permit.
Sure.
So obviously ease of workflow of having brewers that can work on both sides, but also that we didn't have to be double brewing anything. Yep. So we ended up getting in there. And I think it was early part of 15 maybe. Again, started out in bottles initially just because we weren't for sure what our best sellers were going to be. Gotcha. And to order cans, you order a truckload at a time, pre-printed cans. So you're getting like 120,000 cans or 150, I forget the number. It's a large number.
Wow.
Versus ordering a truckload of bottles and then smaller numbers of labels. And so that was the reason initially we went went with bottles because we wanted to make sure. We ended up being right, thank goodness. But
Right.
you know, we had these visions of being stuck with 90,000 cans of amber that had nothing to do with, right. And so thank God we didn't end up happening. But yeah, so we knew that we wanted to make sure we got out on shelves, and before anybody no big money guy came through and started taking over the area or anything, but it's always kind of something that was out there in our minds, and we're like, let's not, people are enjoying our beer. We think we've got a really good product right now. Let's jump right in and go for it.
Yeah. So the transition from bottles to cans, that was just kind of a purchase of a piece of machinery type deal, or
somewhat, yeah. Like? Yeah, we so being in cans is something we wanted to do. Being down here, golf courses, beach, everything else. Mm-hmm. Cans in theory are actually a lot better for the beer. They don't taste like aluminum like maybe they did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Right. They keep all the light out. The beer stays fresher longer. So we always were interested in cans. So once we decided to make the switch, the canning machine is much more expensive, but a bottling machine. So for bottling, we have to do. If you come on our tours, you can get one of the real detailed explanations of all this.
I've been on it. Yeah,
this is nice. One of my rundowns I give. But so for bottling, we had a day before we even started bottling, where we were building case boxes, putting the 6-pack holders in there. Mm-hmm. Then it took 3 guys full time to run that line, right. And we were getting about 28 to 30 bottles a minute out of there.
Okay.
Canning line has no pre-production, so everything goes into a carton, straight into a flat. So there's no pre-production that we have to do on that. Takes about 2.5 people basically to run it, and we do about 52 or so cans a minute on that. So the efficiency side was huge. Yeah. Where it took us, say, 2 days to empty a tank, now it's taking us 1 day because we're getting the packaging part done so much more efficiently.
Right.
And so we have the machine that puts them in a carton, pops them out the other end. So we've got basically one guy kind of running the machine, another person on the end pulling stuff off. Now we got extra help that's always kind of roving around and lending a hand. So that was a big thing. Obviously, ordering the cans was that one hurt initially to get your first orders in of cans. That was. I'll tell you the craziest thing though is we had shipping containers that we used for storing all of our bottles. Okay. We had about 3 of them back behind our building. Well, the pallets that carry cans were literally 3 inches taller than the shipping containers. And shipping containers are not made in any other way, shape, or form. Right. And they were not going to slice 3 inches off the top of our pallets. And so, this was a problem we went on weeks stressing about. And ended up buying some ends of tractor 18-wheeler, gotcha. Which was high enough. We got 4 of those back there now that store each shipment when it comes in. Okay. But yeah, those 6 inches, that wore us out a pretty good bit. How to handle that and what to do with it and everything else. And
did you realize that after you purchased the cans?
No, we knew that beforehand. Thank God. We were smart enough to measure. If we had done that 8 years ago, yes, they would have arrived and we'd have been like, what now? Yeah. But one of those professionalism things was that we actually looked ahead and said, hey, let's measure this before we take delivery of anything. Yeah. So that was, but initially our carton machine was behind, so we had to put things in the PackTech rings. And so there was a whole lot of, it was not an easy transition. Right. Our distributor had to be very patient with us on that, and the accounts had to be very patient with us on that. Sure. But we're glad we did it. I think it's we like what we have going right now.
Beer still tastes great out of the can, so no worries there. As far as I want to get your advice on kind of someone that would be entering into this business that wants to get into brewing and starting a brewery. What would be your one little snippet of advice for that person?
I think we do talk to people sometimes. Again, one of the nice things that when we were coming in, so good people, talked to them a little bit. Back 40 was extremely helpful when we had questions about things. And so we always kind of made a point at that time, we're going to pay that forward. People come to us. I'm not going to tell you the Causeway recipe, but sure. You want to know what our power bill is? Yeah, I'll let you know what it is. I'm not going to hide any of that stuff. But I think the biggest thing is to find what you do and do it well. I think that is the thing. I think so many people try to you're going to open only for lunch. Well, now we're going to open for dinner. Now we're going to open for breakfast. Now our menu is 14 pages. Right. And it's find the thing that you do. Find whether it's your beer style, whether it's the feel of your tap room. Whatever it is. I love going to Birmingham's. I think they got a lot of breweries that are just really different than each other, from beer styles to the feel when you walk in the tap room to the clientele that's in those tap rooms. And that's why they're all successful, is because they're not all just doing the exact same thing.
Right.
So I think that's, for me, that's always this, like, find your angle. You look at Braided River is a good example. They're very nature, outdoorsy, kayaking kind of thing. They do a lot of stuff with Coastal Foundation. Not that we don't do a lot of that stuff, but that is their kind of their angle. And it's, I think it helps your branding to know what that angle is.
I said this on the last podcast, and it was one of our bartenders that kind of wrote it on a little suggestion card, but be unapologetically yourself.
Yeah.
Just like, and then just do everything.
We know our marketing director, she used to always say, she goes, we're all marketing companies. It's just, we have different products for marketing.
Yeah, everybody's a salesman, Yeah,
that's what I say. You can make the best beer in the world and have terrible marketing, nobody know it.
Right.
But you can make the worst beer in the world and have great marketing, and nobody's going to drink it. So you got to have some combination of both things. But yeah, I think people lose their way when they try to either listen to too many voices or try to do too many things. Like, if you're good at making sours, make sours. You're good at IPAs, do whatever it is.
Find your thing. Yeah.
Find what it is and do it. I think Big Beach as well. They've done a great job at their tap room of just you feel like you're at the beach when you're in there.
Yep.
And I think it's a great angle. They got a great setup, and they put together what they are, and I think it matches what their name and the feel they're looking for. And so it's always nice to see that. I think we have our thing that we go for, which as you're going through this, you hit on the clever names and the things along the Pelican and whatever.
Right.
And
right.
So you got to come back to that stuff and make sure you're not falling too far off what your mark is.
Yeah, I think I'll do it really well. So pandemic. Tell me what happened when you realized, all right, we're going into shutdown. We can't distribute beer. No one's gonna be buying it because everything's shut down. Obviously y'all sat around and tried to figure out, the plan. What was it?
Well, initially obviously we didn't know how long anything was going to last. So at first you're like thinking, oh, it's only going to be a week or two, or we'll be fine. Biggest thing for us was, for here, I think it was right before Arts and Crafts Festival, which is usually a big weekend for us. We had just brewed a batch of our Tarts and Crafts sour that we're going to have on tap at all these places around town.
Yep.
And so our issue is, you're brewing beer 3-4 weeks out, when all of a sudden we got all these tanks full and no taps at all to put, and so that was number one brainstorm is, what are we going to, how are we going to, obviously we're going to be shut down, nothing we can do about that. Then the opportunity came for the beer to go. I think that you could, people could go to grocery stores, or you could run kind of a storefront.
Yep.
So basically we reconfigured our tap room to where you would just literally walk about 2 feet in the front door. We had a register set up there. We had our beer to go cooler.
Yep.
And we basically started canning everything we had into 16-ounce cans, hand labeling, do all for everything that we had. And so we had some stuff that was already there, ready to go. And the same thing with our staff too. We were trying to just get 1 or 2 guys in. We didn't want like 20 people back there. Right. So we were working the schedule with these guys to make them feel comfortable and safe, but still get the stuff done.
Yeah.
And I think what it did nicely for us is, one, pushed us to make crazy beers, because we needed, somebody might come out and buy cheap sunglasses while they're there. We needed to make the Tiger King beer, the one we made with Peeps.
Y'all capitalized on all that really well.
Yeah, we were like, we got to put some stuff out there that people are like, we did a Bushwhacker beer, stuff where people are like, because they can't taste it. It's not, I'm going to come in the tap room, taste that, and I like it. We're like, the style or the name's got to draw people to come out here and buy this beer.
Yep. And
so we started kind of pushing the limits in that respect of being really creative, whether it be naming or in what was in the beer, because that was our what we could do. Now, once people got there, they'd buy the Causeway, they'd buy whatever else.
Sure. And
so we ended up doing reasonably well. And if you were over there, you saw Elizabeth, who was our bartender through that stretch. She's in PA school now. I mean, she was a trooper. She was there for those 3-4 hours every day. She was labeling the cans.
She's awesome.
Dealing with all the people coming in. And actually, people did tip very nicely. I think they appreciated what we were trying to do. Yeah. And, it was nice. There were a lot of people who definitely, of our regulars, who I think came out and felt the need to come support us as best they could. Yeah. And, our goal was, let's give them something to support us with. You know, and so that's why we were constantly coming up with these creative beers. And that's one thing that has definitely carried over is we did some taproom only can releases previously. But now, if we make a beer, we try to get into a 16-ounce can. If you go to our cooler now, you got 5, 6, 7 options every time.
I do love that, yeah.
And that's something that we might not have gotten into, weren't we not forced into that.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the, one of the good things that came out of it for us was, the ability to realize that this is a market that people are interested in.
That's cool. I like that.
On the other hand, when really the hard part, to be honest with you, is when we were able to open the tap room back up. And this is where the longest discussions on our end came, because we're a social place. We're bar stools right next to each other. We're a place that, it's nothing makes us happier than to look at two people coming in the tap room. Like, they met here. That's where these guys became friends sitting here. They know each other. Now they come in and have a beer once a week together.
Right.
And you kind of take that aspect away with everything, because you can only sit with your family group or whatever the different rules were. Mm-hmm. So that was really challenging, because it was one of those things we wanted to open back up, obviously. Again, the revenue stream needed to keep coming.
Yeah.
But we also wanted to do it as responsibly as we could on our end.
Sure.
And so, there was a lot of discussion that went on about how to meet both those goals.
Yep.
And also, again, you were dealing with some people who thought it was the scariest thing in the world, and some people thought it was not real. And
right.
You got those customers coming in on either side, and you're trying to make everybody happy. And, I think we did a pretty good job in the end. We didn't really have any issues, but I mean, there's a lot of game planning that went into, how to open back up and how to do things the right way that makes the social people able to be social, but the people who are a little nervous not be worried about anything.
Yeah, you had a host up there at one point, seating people at the tables, like you said, and then you had a designated area where you go up and order the beer from.
Yep.
Hand sanitizer everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Masks encouraged. That's kind of how we were, man. We opened the doors right in the middle of it, and so we had to, figure out a way to keep the first impression how we wanted it to be through this whole thing, and so there was a lot of money spent trying to, just making sure that we sterilized everything correctly and we're able to keep the doors open and keep people coming in and getting the experience we wanted them to get. So we never did to-go food because we just didn't have that opportunity to, people see our food here or experience our food here and then know that, you're getting a little less quality when you get it to go pretty much anywhere you go.
Yeah.
I will say, shout out Jeremiah Matthews at Southwood. They did a great job with their to-go food. But we ate there often, and then we'd come and get a beer at the brewery.
Our bet's still open as to when Hope Farm is going to close, because we assumed you weren't going to make it with the pandemic coming right when you were there. And here we are. I don't know who's on the board right now, but
Hey, look, it's all about the neighbors across the street that are keeping us alive.
Man, we hated it for you guys. I mean, it was just watching all. We saw the construction from day one.
Right.
Watched you and your wife put the sign up and then have to take the sign back down. That was kind of humorous because we knew it was coming, but.
Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah.
We knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, we won't get into that
one. But we saw the whole process, and then we knew it was hard on us. But for places like yourself and some other places that were just getting started, it's like, man, how do you overcome all your plan? Not only is it the shutdown, then there's this limited capacity reopening. Now, you guys, I think, whether you were planning it or not, you already had a huge space with spaced out seating. I think it worked out really great for you guys.
That was just a happen. You
didn't have to do a ton of maneuvering on the inside because you were already well spaced out, a lot of outdoor space. So, you did benefit from that. Some of these little smaller kind of quaint establishments, where you're going to cram 25 people into 10 square feet, probably were struggling. But you guys had a nice floor plan with a lot of options.
It worked out. Yeah, the outdoor seating was key. And then obviously, like you said, just being inside and having everything spaced out, it was a major benefit that we didn't plan on, but it worked out in our favor for sure. But so obviously, we took y'all's parking. So that was the main thing. It was like I remember coming here when I first moved back, and obviously I'd park on this piece of property every time I came. Yeah. It was easy. You just whip in, whip out, and obviously for the big events that y'all did, that's where everybody parked. So we come in and we take it over. Was there any, were y'all angry at us for that?
We were actually in some battles with the previous owner about who got to park there anyway.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So it wasn't a huge deal. Makes me sad though. I got some videos of me and my son William when he was first starting to play t-ball over in where your place is now. We're over here. Dang. And using that as our baseball field when he's
bulldozed
hitting off the tee and running around the pretend
cool,
bases.
Yeah.
But no, we had we got the lot next door to where our production facility is, and then I think we've done a good job between the two of us are our businesses and alerting each other when things are going on.
Right.
And you know, like I said, I think people frequent both of our places. So some of your guys park at our place and go back and forth.
Yep.
Some of our guys park at your place and go back and forth.
It's just part of it.
You know, I don't think we've ever had any issues in that respect. So
yeah, I think everything's been good. Yeah, y'all do a great job letting us know. When
I mean, sometimes I don't, you know, I'm like, we don't know where everybody parked. Like, I don't want to know where these people park. So
the end of the day, it's like, you know, it's not really my problem.
Tell me. Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, I mean, you guys have you use the security for certain events. We have the off-duty police person there for our big events. Just makes you feel a little safer, and
right.
They can handle the complaints if there are any. And
that is the major key to get the city involved in that, and especially when we're having, you know, wedding receptions and things are going a little later and a little loud. It's easy to get the call in, and then they're like, "Hey, this call came in, but you're good." You know, so it's good to have that relationship.
One of these days they'll shut you down. We call every single time.
Do y'all? Yeah, I figured it was you.
Yeah, we call and then nothing ever comes of it. Maybe one of these days.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. So, all right, I want to kind of finish this up with where you think the future of the brewing industry is headed. Obviously, you know, there is you know the whole seltzer kick going on. People are kind of being more, you know, health conscious, and beers, you know more not. And so where do you think it's headed?
You know, I think the seltzer thing seems to be kind of, I don't want to say it's fading, but I think it's getting more. White Claw, I think, is kind of running that show. Yeah. And I think it was one of those things where they were kind of the first ones to really come out and get popular. Mm-hmm. So people were loyal to them more so to the style in general. Right. Which you see sometimes, you know, people like a certain beer. They don't necessarily like that style, but that's what they like. So I'm not as much worried on the seltzer front. The locale thing, it exists. I think cheap sunglasses is reasonably low. I forget what the number is exactly in calories, but it's not crazy. Mm-hmm. But part of what we do is not, you know, take the Causeway, on the other hand, is not necessarily calorie friendly, but if you want a really good beer, it's a really good beer. You know, go jog before you come in. Right. So I think, you know, I think the sours are here to stay. I think that's something that's going to continue going for a long time. I think you're seeing a lot of movement back towards the West Coast style IPAs from the hazies. Mm-hmm. I think hazies are still going to exist, but I think, you know, there was a time where every beer, all of a sudden, it seemed like they came out. I mean, we did it too. We made a ton, and you know, I think, but people start to go back to what kind of the old school, and we started to do that. The Lost and Mountain Brook I have here, that's, you know, West Coast. We really went back to telling our current brewer Jacob, you know, let's start making some like Causeway Light. Yeah, you know, let's a little lower alcohol. Yeah, maybe a little bit different hop profile, but let's keep it that piney, bitter, you know, kind of floral feel to it. So I think that's something that's going to go. You know, you see a lot of these breweries that are trying to do like the local IPAs, and you know, I don't think we're going to jump in anything like that. Yeah. So I think if anything, you just see it continue to get more localized to each little area having its brewery, and you know, and I'm sure that'll pass at some point as well. But say, went back, you know, if we're said earlier, if we're selling, you know, if we're relying on our Arkansas distribution to stay open, we're in trouble. Right. So that's why our focus has always been here. Is we know at the end of the day, if we can keep a full tap room and we can keep Baldwin County, Mobile County buying our beer, we'll be all right. Yeah. So, you know, I don't think a lot of these outside things are necessarily going to affect those kind of things. Yeah.
I mean, I don't see people stop drinking beer. You know, it's just too good.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's affordable for the most part.
It is.
You know, I've seen your wine prices, and beer's only $6 over at our place. So
it's $5.50 at ours. Cheap sunglasses on tap.
Okay.
No,
I don't think either of us wins if we're just lowballing each other on price. That's probably
that's a losing battle for sure. But I do want to say, you know, our collaborations with you guys, you know, growing some things on the farms, y'all making some beers out of that, and then obviously we have a little menu over there. That we, you know, run back and forth for, you know, just supplying y'all when y'all don't have food trucks and things. I think y'all have been really incredible neighbors, welcoming us from the very beginning, and you've always been supportive on everything, and so I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, you're lucky you got your dad's like the nicest guy in the world too. So
he's a good guy.
He'd walk over and ask if the jackhammer was too loud, or something, just in the middle of the day. You think he's going to come over and complain, and he's like, "Just want to make sure I'm not in your way at all." We're like,
we really felt bad about taking the parking. We really did. It was, but I think it's for this little area we have here, I think we play off each other really well.
No, I think we're so different, but similar at the same time. I think it works great. I think there's a lot of people. The number of people that either come to our place for a drink, then go to your reservation, or they just came from your place, or the wedding receptions and things you do, we'll get a little run at, say, 9:30 one night.
Exactly, and we kick them out.
Or we get a lot of people who come in between the service and the wedding, and they come by and have a beer. I think we definitely see some good results from you guys. You guys being our neighbors over there. And again, obviously we don't have any food, so that's a nice thing as well. But I'd love to see this. Just like we talked about more breweries, I think more things being in your area makes you more of a destination. So
I agree.
And I think it works out well.
Yeah, now we got a crosswalk. So
I know. We're even closer together than we were.
Exactly.
The Skywalk didn't come through for us.
I wanted the tunnel.
One day,
honestly,
one day.
All right, so the last part of this is a little rapid fire segment, and you just this or that. All right, so I'm just going to shoot them to you, and you just give me the answers. All right. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
IPA or stout?
IPA usually.
Okay.
I love stout, so.
Duke or Alabama?
Ooh, that's a tight one. I think I'd have to lean. I went to undergrad at Duke, so I'd have to lean Duke. But my Alabama football passion's pretty hardcore.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. They're pretty good. All right, chicken wings or pizza?
Chicken wings.
Chris Rock or Will Smith?
I always side with the comedians. I like a comedian. I'm a Dave Chappelle guy. I think he's hilarious. I always side with comedians doing their thing.
I feel you.
It takes a lot of guts to tell a joke when you might get slapped in the face for it. So
and you never see it coming.
I do like Will Smith, but But
I've
I've loved Chris Rock from way back in the day. So Saturday Night Live days on. So for sure.
Well, man, I appreciate you being here. It's been a hell of a time, and we look forward to some more.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me over, man. I've enjoyed it. Cheers. Thanks for the specialty cocktail here.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we'll be seeing you around.
All right, man. See you.